everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grateful Kids Storytime. Today's shoutouts go to sisters Haven and Indy, brothers Robert and Steve, and last but not least, the virtue of politeness, which is the star of our show. And so, without further ado, I present to you the Rude Echo. Out in Rattlesnack Gulch, where the sand shimmered like a golden blanket and the wind whistled through piles of rusty junk, Jax ran the best spot in town, the junkyard hideout. It was a rickety shack he'd slapped together with old wagon boards, dented cans, and a door that creaked like a tired old cricket. Kids from every corner dragged in treasures, cool toys, twisty sticks, smooth stones, to trade for Jax's stash of prickly pear candy or warm soda he'd gotten from the store's discard bin. He was the boss, arms crossed, voice sharp. "Hand over that stone, quick!" he'd bark. Or, "Move it with that toy, let's go!" Nobody loved his gruff ways, but the hideout was too good to pass up. One blazing afternoon, with the sun hanging low like a big juicy orange, a new strange-looking kid strutted up. He was small, with giant goggles sliding down his nose and a grin that wouldn't quit. "Hey there, I'm Pip," he chirped, holding out a shiny brass gear as wide as a pie tin. It was intricate and complex and gleamed with little scratches, like someone had doodled on it with a tiny knife. "Found this. Would you trade some candy and soda for it, please? Check it out." The other kids smirked. Please? Jax didn't mess with that word. Jax snatched the gear, no thanks in sight, and turned it over. "Neat. What's it do?" Pip rocked on his heels. "It's extra special. Came from a glider that crashed way out in the dunes. It's magical and worth a lot of candy." Jax puffed out a laugh, loud as a horse's snort. "Take a hike, goggle boy." He shoved the gear in his pocket and threw a handful of candy at the new kid and shoved a bottle of warm soda in his hands. Pip said thanks and just waved, strolling off with a tune about cactus buddies dancing in the breeze. That night, Jax was sprawled in the hideout, dreaming of racing a lizard on a skateboard when, "Hand over that stone, quick!" A huge voice shook the shack. He bolted up, blankets tumbling, eyes popping wide. "Hand over that stone, quick!" it roared again, bouncing off the walls like a shouty echo gone wild. It was his voice, but bigger, like a giant hollering through a megaphone. He clapped his hands over his ears, but then came, "Move it with that stick, let's go!" Outside, dogs yapped, lights flickered on, and old Mr. Picklepaws yelled, "Pipe down, you loud lump!" Jax stumbled out of bed, grabbed the gear from his pocket, it was warm and humming, and stared hard. "Pip did this," he muttered. "Pip did this!" blasted back so loud a can rolled off of a shelf and bonked his foot. "Ouch!" he yelped, hopping around like a one-legged kangaroo. The echoes kept coming, replaying every bossy word he'd snapped that day. By morning, Jax had shadows under his eyes, and grumpy neighbors were pounding on his door. "What's all this noise, Jax?" Mrs. Tumbleweed growled, shaking her broom like a battle flag. "Kept us up all night with your shouting." "No clue, promise," Jax said, stuffing the gear deeper in his pocket. He had to track down Pip. Now. Finding Pip was a wild chase. That goggled kid was quick as a desert fox, leaving odd little trails. Jax trudged past a wind-up toy lizard that spun in circles and honked like a confused duck, and a bouncy ball that rolled backwards every time he kicked it. The gear kept shouting, "Take a hike, goggle boy!" Kids along the way pointed and chuckled as Jax marched on, cheeks burning red. At last he spotted Pip perched on a busted glider, its wings drooped like sad arms, and a propeller twirled slow, making a sound like a sleepy bear. "Pip!" Jax called, then flinched as "Pip!" boomed out, startling a bird into a wonky flight. "You made this loud gear. Fix it." Pip hopped down, grinning wide. "Hi, Jax." "It's a politeness gear. Yells when you're bossy, stays quiet when you're kind. Want to trade for the fix?" Jax stomped a boot. "Now stop it!" "Please?" Pip said, tilting his head like a curious owl. Jax huffed, but "Now stop it!" roared, and he slumped, Fine. Please stop it. Pip clapped his hands. Nice. Here's the deal. 1 full day of kind words. Please and thank you to everyone. Then I'll fix it. Deal? Jax wanted to chuck the gear at Pip's goofy grin, but hand over that stone, echoed again, and he nodded. Okay, deal. Day 1 of Kind Word Day was a tangle, and funny too. Jack shuffled back to the hideout where little Timmy toddled up with a smooth stone painted like a ladybug. Usually Jax would snap, "Gimme it." Now he swallowed hard and mumbled, Please, can I have that stone?" It came out like he was gargling sand. Timmy blinked big eyes, then plopped it in Jax's hand with a shy smile. "Thank you," Jax said, feeling like a total dork. The gear stayed quiet, no shouting. Strange, but kind of cool. Next, Sage skipped in with a twisty stick she'd tied into a knot. "Please, can I trade this?" Jax said, face scrunched like he'd bitten a lemon. She nodded, handed it over, and funny part, pretended to tie herself into a knot, flopping onto the sand with a dramatic oof. Jax almost laughed, then said, "Thank you, Sage," as she popped up, grinning. The gear hummed soft like a tiny happy bee. By noon, the hideout was buzzing. Kids lined up, snickering as Jax fumbled pleases like a wobbly colt. Rusty, a kid with a mop of wild hair, traded a toy top that spun and whistled a goofy tune. "Thanks, Rusty," Jax said. Rusty spun it so fast it zoomed off and bopped Jax's knee. "Oops," Rusty chuckled, and Jax grumbled. "Please don't aim it at me next time." Rusty saluted with a smirk and tossed him a candy instead. Then came Big Ollie, hauling a wooden donkey on wheels that wobbled and brayed. Jax tried. "Please, can I see that donkey? Thank you." Ollie rolled it over, and it bumped Jax's toes and kept braying like it was laughing at him. "Please, Ollie, make it hush," Jax said, hopping back. Ollie yanked a string, and it stopped with a hiccup. The kids cracked up, and Jax couldn't help but grin. News spread fast as a tumbleweed in a storm. Kids who once steered clear of Jax's grumbly days showed up with awesome trades. A kite that flapped like a bird. A jar of marbles that clicked like tiny drums. Sage hung around, stacking cans into a tower that leaned like a sleepy tree. "You're not so growly now," she said. Jax scratched his head. Thank you?" The tower tipped, and they both chuckled as it fell. By dusk, the hideout was packed, and Jax's candy stash was shrinking, not because he hoarded it, but because trades were flying. Pip strolled in as the moon climbed high, goggles catching the light. "How's it feel, Kind Word, Jax?" Jax flopped on a crate, worn out. "Please, Pip, fix this gear. Thank you." His throat was scratchy from all the politeness. Pip twirled a wrench like a circus trick, popped the gear from Jax's pocket, and poked its wires. The humming quit. "Fixed. 1 day of kind like I promised. Keep it. Might need a little nudge someday." He winked and wandered off, humming about kite-flying lizards. Next morning, Jax tested it. "Hand it over," he snapped at Timmy, who flinched. No echo. He sighed, relieved, then paused. Please, can I have it? Thanks." Timmy handed over a naughty stick, smiling. Jack smiled back. Maybe kind words weren't so bad. Weeks later, the hideout was livelier than ever. Jack slipped sometimes. Grumbling got him a tiny "hand it" from the gear, but just for his ears. He'd mutter please to hush it, and the kids would laugh. Kindness wasn't just about quiet. It made the hideout a better hangout. One quiet night, Jax heard a sneaky voice from the gear. "Nice work, grumbly guts." It was Pip, giggling through the wires. Jax shook his head, tucked the gear away, and grinned. That goggle-wearing kid had the last laugh, and best trade yet. And Jax had come to agree that polite manners really did matter. The end. If you enjoyed our show, don't forget to follow us and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like a shout out, or for one of our characters to share your name, you can email gratefulkidsstorytime@gmail.com and ask. Until next time, stay grateful, everyone.